My name is Leo Caso, and my presentation is on Plato's Parmenides.
Please be active, write down some notes. Are you keeping these notes?
Yes.
Okay, because you're going to need them for your last assignment. Go ahead.
Okay. So the introduction, this is basically just an overview of everything because it's a lot to take in, and if I just threw you in automatically, you'd probably get lost. The dialogue recounts an almost certainly fictitious conversation between
We can see your...
sorry. between a I misspelled that. I don't know. Venerable Parmenides, the elect monist, and a youthful Socrates, followed by a dizzying array of interconnected arguments presented by Parmenides to a young and compliant interlocutor named Aristotle, not the philosopher, but rather a man who became one of the 30 tyrants after Athens surrendered to Sparta at the conclusion of the Peloponnesian War. Most commentators agree that Socrates articulates a version of the theory of forms defended by his much older namesake in the dialogue of Plato's Middle Period. That Parmenides mounts a number of potentially devastating challenges to this theory, and these challenges are followed by a piece of intellectual gymnastics consisting of 8 strings of arguments, deductions that are in some way designed to help us see how to protect the theory of forms against the challenges.
Okay.
Overview of the dialogue. Plato's Parmenides consists of critical examination of the theory of forms, a set of metaphysical and epistemological doctrines articulated and defended by the character Socrates in the dialogue of Plato's Middle Period. According to...
Okay, go ahead and pause it.
Yes, sir. Okay, so basically, all that they're saying is that Socrates and Parmenides are going to argue. The people who are there are just saying, you know what, this argument wouldn't make a lot of sense because it has contradictions, it has a lot of indiscrepancies, and it's very hard to follow. Okay. Okay, so this is a continuation of...
Go ahead and pause it.
Yes, sir. Okay, so the first thing that they introduce is the pi model account. For x to partake of y is for the whole or a part of y to be in x as part of x. Okay, so that basically means that for x, just to be part of y, it needs to be like... Sorry. Then his second point is the paradigmatic account. For x to partake of y is for x to resemble y. And it just says that... So it's just Plato describing general method of training designed to save the forms. It's just him trying to say that the forms are right, and he's trying to protect them from Parmenides' criticism.
So Parmenides is saying, how can there be a human form, and you participate with that human form? That whole human form must be in you also. So how can you be participating in human form and not be human yourself. So for Parmenides, it seems like it's a top-down situation where the human form is up there in the other world, and you are participating in it, but there's no reciprocal. So there's no of us participating in the human form. So what you guys should be worried about in Plato's forms is the individual. He's not taking into account that you are real as a conscious individual person. So if you're participating in being human, under Plato's forms, you don't exist. Well, then how can you explain your conscious individualism? And so Parmenides is using logic to show that this is a top-down logic where the perfect human is in some other world and we participate in it. So that whole humanness is in us, but we are somehow corrupted. We're not like that perfect human. So Parmenides is saying if it's true that we're participating in Y, then we should be Y also. So that Aristotle answers this. I'll jump to Aristotle right now because we're gonna have to run through them. Aristotle answers this problem with the form being in your DNA. He doesn't come up with DNA, but he's saying that he makes a point. There's something in the middle that makes us participate in being human. So it's in our code. So that means that, April, you are fully human being and you are fully perfect because you have a code of a program in you. And he didn't come up with DNA, but it seems that he's circling around this concept that we carry in us the form. So we are real at this moment. Okay? So Aristotle answers this problem here. Plato, he just says, you're not good at your logic. Let's continue on. Okay? So you want?
And then Zen's argument. Dialogue. Okay, so this is Cephalus. This is where Cephalus is arriving in, and he meets two of Plato's half-brothers, and he basically he asks them, do you know, can you confirm that there's a man who can recite an argument between Zen, Parmenides, and Socrates? And they say yes. They say that one of them says that it's his half-brother. So they ask, so Cephalus asks the half-brother to take him to him. And then it's passed down to three people. It's recorded by Pythagoras, passed to Antiphon, and then recounted by Cephalus. And the argument is believed to be basically fake. There's no way that it could all be accurate. And then the exchange begins with a summary of the general structure of Zeno's argument. If things that are many, then they are both like and unlike. Nothing can be both like and unlike, so things are not many. So basically, I can be, or Socrates uses the example of Plato and Meletus. Meletus is a poet, and Socrates is unlike Meletus in the fact that he is not a poet, and he is like Plato in that he is a philosopher.
Sorry, this interruption. Julissa Ortega and Olivia Galaviz.
Socrates' speech, the theory of forms. Okay, so the first thing that he talks about is causality. Things that are F, other than the F, are F by virtue of partaking of F. So the only way that something can be a part of S is if it does the same thing as F, or it partakes, or I'm not sure how to reword that. Another crucial principle is separation. Separation, the F itself, at least in the sense of being separate from, hence not identical with, the things that partake of it. Then I'm not sure how to explain that. Okay.
How do we explain, both you and I, that's a separation? You and I are not the same, that we participate in humanness.
Wait, can you repeat the question?
You and I are different people, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here's a problem, is that if Plato and Parmenides are right, we both participate in this idea of human, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but Plato says that we are imperfect, where Parmenides says we're not even here. Okay? So Plato's answer to this is separation. The forms are true, and we participate in the forms separately, and that's what causes our individuality. So separateness is his explanation of individuals. That's his way of getting there. Okay?
Yes, sir.
We play separate roles in the forms?
Yeah.
Okay. Like things are like by partaking of separate forms and likeness, and unlikeness things are unlike by partaking separate form of unlikeness. And then Socrates emphasizes that it is possible for sensible things to partake in both likeness and unlikeness. And so both things are like and unlike.
So you and I are not contradictions. We're both human and not participating in the perfect human. We're both incompletes. Okay?
Yes, sir. And then the example I gave earlier is that Socrates and Plato are the same, and Miletus and Socrates are not.
That's right. What in terms of how they participate in the world? Okay.
And then the general principle here is impurity S. Impurity S is sensible things that are impure in as much as they can, and in fact often do, have contrary properties. So something okay, so Socrates says that Zeno's argument is wrong, but not completely. And then he brings up here to answer how Zenos is partially right, he brings up purity F. Purity F is just that forms cannot have contrary properties. And then according to purity F, this is the case that one cannot be both one and many, and be like cannot, and the like cannot be both like and unlike. But it is also the case that one cannot be both like and unlike, and the like cannot be both one and many. Okay, so...
Okay, I'm just going.
Yeah, oh, sorry. He then brings up the principle of 1 over many, which is a sequel to both of the last ones. 1 over many is for any plurality of F things, there is a form of Fness by virtue of partaking of which each member of plurality is F. So if me and Mr. Alvarado are both different people, we both need to partake in F. Right? Yeah? Okay. And then Plato infers by bringing the third argument, the principle of uniqueness. Uniqueness is just for any property F, there is exactly one form of Fness. So that means everyone is their own person. He's just arguing that.
He's trying to argue that.
He's trying to argue that.
Right.
Sorry.
But he doesn't do a really good job.
And then they bring up self-predication. For any property F, the F is F. So it's the same thing as the last one, it's just that things are individual. And the example is beautiful, and